of this. What I'm doing, I think what I've added into the HTML, if I can remember, is I create a panel div, and this is going to be the overlay, but because it doesn't have any width and height initially, it's just hidden. It doesn't really matter. So what I'm doing is when I want it to show up, I make the position of it absolute. We can look at the style here. Make sure that we put it in line. So what you need to do, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the CSS positioning. Most of what we've used is like a relative scale. But if you make a div absolute, you can specify the absolute positions of a div, and that means that it's in a fixed position to those measurements from the screen, and you can specify top, left, right, and bottom, and those parameters are specific to whatever screen you have, if that makes sense. So what I did is I created this div. I'm not specifying anything for it on the initial load, but when you click that button, which is on the button, I'm selecting all of the circles that we've drawn previously, and I'm passing that to, I've broke it out into a highlight data function. So I'm passing the data and the circles. And what I'm doing with that, and all of this, if you want me to spend a little more time explaining certain things, I'd be happy to do that. But if you just kind of, you're not really sure what to think about it right now, all of this code is in that code pen, so you can look through it. And this setup is very similar to what we did in Homework 6 for the storytelling. So going down to there, so we're passing the UFO data and the actual circle selection. And what I wanted to do is I'm grabbing the position of the circles that I want because I wanted it to be independent of. So when you're scaling stuff to data, you have to create scales, and those are relative to whatever box that it's in. So because I have a div that overlays everything that has absolute positioning, I really just wanted to get the position of the circles based off of the screen, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to everyone? So if you wanted to, you could just draw the positions based off of the data, but you would have to get the padding on the top and the left, just so to where when you scaled it, the same scale that you draw the initial circles with, you have to make sure everything lines up. So I found that it was easier to just get the positions of the circles. So I'm grouping the data by cities. You've seen this. Actually, I think you've seen it in previous labs. Did Kieran go over groups with you guys? Or it might have been in the advanced D3 or advanced JavaScript lecture. But for those of you that are not familiar with this, if you want more information on it, I think Kieran does have something in the lecture, but there was a really good observable that I found when I was learning about groups for Homework 6 to implement this. And so what I'm doing is, this is a really fast way of taking this array of data and I'm grouping it by the city label so that I'm getting a group, and we can actually look at this. Data, so we can just see it. So what that looks like.
Tell us for that.
Thank you. Okay, so what that does, what that looks like, is it creates key value pairs. So what I did is I passed the data array that I wanted into d3.groups, and which was cities. And so what it's doing is it's taking and it's aggregating our data based off of the city name. And so you get first element in the array is the city name, and then the second is the array of data that falls under that. So I grouped the data, and I was just curious when I was making this. I'm like, okay, well, most of the cities have one, but there are a couple that have more. So I wanted to see what the max for each siding was. So going back to the code. So I just took the max of that group, and basically I mapped each of those groups. I just took the length of the second, I guess it would be at index 1 element, which is all of our data that fits under that city. I got the max of that. And then I took the circle selection, and I filtered just the ones that had that max city. So I was like, okay, the maximum is 3. Then I'm going to go through, I'm going to filter my circles to just have those cities, if that makes sense. So I have 2. Sorry, this is an intermediate step where I wanted to get the names. So I'm like, okay, I know the max is 3. What are the names of those cities? Austin and some other town in the Midwest. And then I took the circle selection and I filtered it by that city name. So now I know what the circles are. And what I'm doing here is for each city circle, I want to get the actual position relative to the screen. And so I'm grabbing that and I'm just basically creating an array of data that I can then draw groups on this SVG that I've overlaid over the screen. And so, yeah, the rest is pretty much familiar with what you've seen before. If you're not familiar with, one thing that might be helpful is this. So a way to get, so what I'm doing here is, and you've probably seen this in previous homeworks, but you can iterate through selections. Instead of mapping, I can't map a selection, it's going to throw an error. But I can use .each, and that loops through each element in our selection, which in this case is only 2. The first parameter, this could be D. We usually make that D, but I made it C in this situation. And then the second is the index, and then the third is the array of nodes that are in this selection. So what I'm doing is that I want to get the node, or I want to specify the node, not the selection, because then you can get bounding client rect. And that's what's going to give you the actual position from the screen. And so you're going to have an X and you're going to have a Y position. X is from the left and Y is from the top. So maybe we should just console these so you can see. And this means that I'm not actually using the underlying data or the position data because we have latitude and longitude in these. I'm just using, hey, this circle is drawn in this spot. I want to get the X and Y position for that. So we don't need to scale it because it's already scaled to the screen.
You have a bracket beforehand.
Oh yeah, I do. Thank you. I was like, why does that matter? So when we go to our screen, we hit our story button, we get the positions that we want. And they don't need to be scaled because these are actual pixel positions. So does that make sense, everyone?
On that each function, so you have the CINN.
Yeah.
The C was the data bound to the circle, and the N is the circle itself.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely. So we can actually look at N right now. And this is on arrow functions. So yeah, so I'll show you what, so this is an array of, the C is the actual data that's bound to each, as we're iterating through each circle, it's for each circle is the data bound to them. But N is the entire array of nodes of circles. So if we want to use n, just show you n really quick. And what's unique about that is that n is no longer a D3 selection, it's just the node. So if you want to manipulate it in D3, you're going to have to use D3.select all n, which you're selecting all of the nodes. Or you can D3.select, I use this a lot, D3.select n, and then specifying the index of whatever one that you're using in that array. So that'll give you like a D3 selection for that. But yeah, that's basically, and this looks a little weird because we have 6 circles, and that's just because there are 3 sidings. We're drawing a circle for each siding, so there's really 3 circles in there, if that makes sense. But you get the idea, is that we're getting the actual nodes, the HTML elements. And on an actual HTML element, we can get the bound and find correct. That makes sense to everyone. So then what I'm doing, and this is all similar to what we've done in previous homeworks, that I'm creating a highlight group, I'm bounding the data that we got, and I'm then taking rectangles, and I'm positioning the highlight groups based off of the positions that we've made this array with, if that makes sense. So we have city positions was the array that we populated with our circle positions. And then I'm drawing our little line. And then, let's see where our text is. Finally, so I have the group. I position that first because it's easy to then add elements to the group. And then within that group, it's positioned next to our circle. I just manipulated trial and error until I got the rectangle spaced and the line spaced of what I wanted. If that makes sense. So, yeah. And then I just added the text based off of this length of the initial data. Do you want to look at anything in more detail, or are you guys good with this? You can look at this one more time. So I added a transition just for style. And if you want me to go into, I can explain that, but it's pretty standard with what we've done before. And then what I'm doing is, so this is one div, and it's positioned, the position is absolute, and then I'm just specifying that I want it to be, so it should be 100% width and 100% height, with the top, bottom, and right and left position being set to 0, and that just makes it span the entire screen. But because CodePen was being very weird, because there's like little weird windows, I made the width like 2000, but on a normal screen it should just be 100% for the height, and it should just extend down to the bottom, if that makes sense. So I have that div extends to the bottom, and then you can create an SVG and specify that width being 100% and the height being 100% of the div that it's contained in. And I believe I appended a rectangle and just made it like an opacity of 0.3, just to give it kind of a frosty look, similar to the homework. And yeah, then I just took our little circles here, the absolute positions, and then there's a SVG group, text, rectangle, line. It's super simple. So yeah.
So there's just a big rectangle with opacity.
Yeah, it's just one giant rectangle. You could also specify the background of the div, which is kind of so whatever you want to do with it.
Could you show how you did the size?
Yeah. And you can look at it right here. So, yeah, I made the div, I classed it pane. So yeah, the position I just made absolute, and then, yeah, I guess instead of specifying the height and width of the dig, if it's absolute and you specify that you want all of these positions to be 0, then it'll span the entire screen. And then I am just saying, hey, this div that I class pane, there's an SVG in it, and I want the width to be 100%, and on a normal screen, the height would be fine to be 100%. But because CodePen was being weird, I just changed it to 2000 as like a hacky alternative. Yeah, so CSS is nice for that. But yeah, anyone else have any questions? One thing that might be important to note, and we left this in the HTML for homework 6, but if you do want to use group, you need an additional D3 array library that you're adding in there. So if you don't have this and you try to use d3.groups, it'll throw an error that d3.groups doesn't exist. So I left that in the HTML of the homework, but if you're curious and you want to use it for another project, you can definitely do that. And actually, let's see. Let me get D3 array. Yeah, okay. And so I got that directly from here. So I'll just post this in the lab if you're curious. Sweet. Yeah. So you guys have any more questions about story panes? You don't have to use I believe we use the most polar as far as the most extremes for Republican and Democratic shift for our example, but you can find anything you want in the data that you find interesting and highlight that. You don't have to use the most extremes. So, yeah. You want to just talk about brushes? Boom.
So I will talk about brush. I will just keep it short and to the point. So we have like almost empty HTML, and then first the brush are usually like the default one is in a kind of rectangular shape. So what I'll do is first we'll attach the brush to something, so some SVG object. So first we need to create a rectangle. Like what we do is attach 3 groups and then transform them, and then we basically attach 3 rectangles to them, as you can see here, and then you just basically set their field to none because you don't want them to be visible, right? Then just to make that clear, we are doing the borders, but in your assignment you will not need them. So once you have the rectangles, you basically first need to attach them first, because if you kind of attach them later, you will not be able to just show the tooltip on the circles, because it's going to detect like the brush event other than the tooltip event. So you just first make sure you attach the rectangles in the background, and then you can put your circles on that one. So then what we do is first we are going to select all the rectangles so that we have 2 of them. And your assignments, first you have 1 of them, but once you separate them into groups, you'll have basically multiple of them. So it's kind of really similar to your assignment. Once we have them, like all the brushes or rectangles in this case, we'll go through each of them. For each of them, we'll call our brush function. So there are like 2 types of brushes in Ruby. One is like this brush. It's kind of, you can, I will demonstrate all of them, but you can change its width and height. Like basically start from a single point and change the width and height. The other one is brush X, which means that you can only extend in X direction. The height of it is always the same. And the other one is brush Y, which basically is like the width is always constant, but you extend in the y direction. So So the extent, how they create is you say due that brush creates a brush object, and then the one important thing that you need to define is extent. What's extent is basically the area that the brush will be active. So in this case, we are giving it like the whole area, like from. So it basically defines 2 points. One is the upper left of the rectangle here, and the second one is the like lower point here. So right now, if I try to start from any point, you can see that I can start from here, I can start from here, I can start from here. Let's see if I change it to, let's make this one 250. No, I shouldn't be able to. I will start from here. See, it doesn't like pass this point. So it's basically what you want to do is just give it the whole with the height of your area, that so that you can start from any point. So it just start from 0 and then give like the whole area of your rectangle. So it makes sense. Okay, and then once we have it, you set this width and height, and then we have 3 events on brush. One is start, one is brush, one is end. So start, what it does is basically trigger it when I click here and start, this triggered only once, a single time. So here you can say, okay, define your like current brush event or do something else. And there's another one is brush event, which is triggered constantly as you drag your mouse. It just keeps updating the things, and it's gonna give you the XY points. I will demonstrate it. And another one is end, which triggered when you use the mouse, and if you want to do something else, maybe clear the brush, you can do it, or some other event you can do it. So right now, the one that we have is basically, so for example, this start event, what we do is we basically check if there is a brush already defined. What we do is we basically, it's a vector clear, just say, just move it to nowhere and move it that null, and it's gonna clear the brush. So right now we have 2 of them, right? So I start one here, then I go to another one. Okay, as soon as I press down, it just clears the other one and starts a new one on this one. So it's really similar to one in your home. So once we do it here, and then so this was the brush X, and you can see I can only extend like X. So this is brush Y, so I can extend only one direction, Y direction. Let's try. I think this is the one that you're gonna use in your home, brush X. So we're just gonna go in this direction only, X direction, and then the other one is just brush, which is gonna go like in both directions. So this start can either go this direction or this direction. So, but the one that we're gonna use in the homework is X. So we're gonna focus on it. So remember I said so basically what you need to do is as you drag your mouse and extend the brush to the surface side, okay, you have to like highlight some of them like here. So yeah, it's basically you're gonna find the circles that are inside the rectangular area, and you're gonna change the color or the background color. So how can you do that? It's basically gonna, so you know the X position, right? X position, we have the X position of the surface side. And what we need to do is first, let's say I get this brush here, I need to know X position here, right? The X1, and the position here, so that based on that X1 or X2 position, I can find the circles that fill inside that area, and then change the color or like add the class. So you can do this once you know the position. You can just do this with the filter, which is gonna. So let's you know how we can get the position. Remember I said there's a brush event, right? So we already have set up something for the on event, and we're gonna start event. We're gonna set up something for start. It's just as similar to any. either event, set the brush, skip layer of the event, and then so this is basically we say we do that event.selection should give you the current x1 and x2 positions of the brush. So if I open up my console here and start I should say. So you basically get an array. So the first one is the x1. You can see it doesn't change. It's like constant, right? It's just x brush. So just start dragging, and as you drag, get the positions updated. The first one is gonna stay the same because obviously we don't change the first one, we change the second one, so we can just, as if we update the brush, you get the positions from there. Select your circles that fill inside that area by using the filter filter, and then you just apply the change the color. So, and then you don't need to worry about the clearing because like, the code provider already does it. So, yeah.
Wait, so this event is spitting out
The positions of
coordinates?
the rectangle. So I'll take it one more time. So,
Is that like relative to the viewport or? Like,
yeah, if I start from it, it should be zero, close to zero, right?
Okay.
See? It's relative to the rectangle itself, the thing that we provided. So
So it's in like the same.
yeah, yeah. So
mapping
you don't,
is
yeah, you
like
don't
the-
need to worry about that. So
Okay.
yeah, just updates you with the coordinates. So x1 and x2. Since this is like x brush, we'll get 2 points. Like if we have like let's say we have a brush that we can extend in both directions. Then we'll get 4 of them because we will like have 4 points, right? So we get this one, this corner, and this corner, but and then you can see it's like area of arrays. But I don't want to confuse it because the brush X is the one that you will use in your homework because you want to in one direction. So you're just gonna take values from here, select all circles, and then apply filter that filters those like that fill inside the circle. It's basically if their like X position is bigger than x1 and smaller than x2, then you just select them. So it should be safe. Any questions? Yeah.
So when you're like the demo, so when you do the brush X across, so that would, and then you need to like select the elements like in the table. For that saying that would be part of the brush function.
The update function. So you will do it here. On brush here. On brush event here. So as we move our brush, you're gonna update. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I was gonna ask, so when we expand into the different rows,
Yeah.
do we create the brushes and then delete them if we collapse it, or will they all be created the whole time?
I think if you do them with like update or kind of like join or something, it should be done automatically, right? So it should automatically use one of them, but otherwise, yeah, you have to like you add them. But probably like the join update will be the easiest option.
Okay.
I don't really understand what's happening on line 28 and 9. You're setting active brush to brush.
This one?
Yeah, like where?
Oh, then, let me see. You're saying when we use active brush node?
What are those like variables and where do they, like,
So, okay, so first on start event, what we do is we check if there's a previous brush that we defined.
yeah,
First we remove them inside the if condition. See, if I don't have this one, it's that, and then this one. Oh, sorry. Assume that I don't have like the starting there. I have this one, this one. You don't want this one, right? We only want to have a single brush at a time. So what we do is we first remove our brush and then assign our active brush or current brush like this brush, like the current one. Just we keep it a variable so that next time when we start another one, we check if it is there, we remove the old one and update our active brush. So it's basically a way to kind of make sure that we remove the old brush. If we have an old brush, we remove them and then we set the brush to our new brush. So it's kind of a way to keep track of the brushes and remove the old brushes. So don't end up with multiple brushes.
that the brush variable on 28 is the same brush variable on line 23. That's kind of in the callback, like setting it.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. It's kind of like setting the itself. Yeah, can I use this part as it is? So you see your code. Another question.
A question about something else.
Yeah, sure.
Remember in the last homework, I talked about the way the table was implemented using an HTML table.
Here we use SVG, right?
Yeah, we do, but we don't specify if they need to use SVG or not, so.
Do you recommend doing it that way?
SVG,
Yeah.
I would recommend not. And that was just because, the table element, sizes things and like appropriately to your data, if that makes sense, like the content. And with SVG, you have to like calculate your own width and different things like that, if that makes sense. It's, I mean, it didn't take that much more work, but it was like a little bit of work finessing, like, okay, I want this cell like this wide and then translate all of the cells based off of the index in the row, if that makes sense.
So you can kind of do it the same way as the last homework.
Yeah.
If you can use your content inventor, but they're good if you're like animated, they're cool. Otherwise, there isn't like any advantage from that. Yeah, other questions?
So with that range issue, you guys are gonna post the ranges you get.
Oh, yeah, we're just gonna post the scale function that we
scale,
use.
I mean.
Yeah, yeah, so that, yeah, I'll post it. Like, so. I think it's kind of like the new assignment this year, so. So basically the thing is, once you have visualization, the surfaces should not collide. They should collide with each other. So this was like the whole point of doing the simulation for simulation.
You guys are feeling up to, you finished it early and you're bored and want to run the simulation. So,
It's fun for it. That's worth it.
it's fun. It got a little, you have to run the simulation till you get to an optimal, like, delta measurement or something that's going on in underlying simulation. So there's an example I think I linked to in the README that has an example of doing that.
Yeah, but you should start early. So it's what I'm going to do next week. Actually.
Does everyone feel comfortable with brushes and storytelling things?
Yeah, I think the code should be enough for the brushes. Like you just need to fill the update function so you just filter them and set the background and stuff. The update will take that stuff.
So we should probably like call an update function from
Yeah,
the
inside.
brush.
Yeah, inside
Yeah.
instead of like console log, you just gonna write your own function which will filter the circles, fill their background like horizontally and then update the table. Any other questions? Okay, I think that's it for today. Next.
I'll turn this on. Oh, nice, you zoomed in on it. How do you do that?